It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. A lot of the stories that I'm going to tell you guys right now are not from the early 2000s. I double checked, I triple checked, and no guys, a lot of the stories are not from the early 2000s, but rather this year. And so without further hesitation, let's dive into the book burning stuff as well as the book bans across the country. The book burning event took place in Tennessee by Pastor Locke, and here was his post before the book burning actually happened.
As I mentioned during my Sunday sermon, I will be having a massive burning at the end of our Wednesday night message this week. It will be in our continued series of Deliverance from Demons. We have stuff coming in all over that will be burning. We're not playing games. Warcraft and accursed things must go. In Acts 19, they brought their sorcery and demonism and burn it.
You know what? I just absolutely love the attitude of this guy. So yeah, burn baby burn, da 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 da, burn baby burn, da 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 da. And of course, let's just see the footage of what he actually did, because I'm sure all the possessed stuff, the items from World of Warcraft, from Harry Potter, and Twilight have met their internal doom and suffering. I swear to God, when I heard about this story for the first time, this was the type of stuff I grew up on when I was a little kid. I remember hearing stories of people burning stuff for Harry Potter because they accused it of witchcraft. And so also during my childhood, I knew somebody when I was younger, and they told me that if I were to purchase a Harry Potter book, that I'm putting witchcraft in the whole entire house. I knew somebody like that. And so this whole entire story is actually, giving me flashbacks, because honest to God, this stuff is early 2000 stuff that I just said right now. But it's what also is kind of, disturbing too, besides the whole entire book burning, which, by the way, what the Nazi did with the exact same thing, is also the various types of books that has been banned across the country because of various different reasons. The first book that has been constantly banned across the country in libraries has to be the book that was called Genderqueer. Now, I'm not against the idea of, teaching, students in high school about various types of sexuality, be it heterosexuality, bisexuality, transgenderism, or whatever. I don't necessarily care if it's that kind of stuff was actually, taught in sex education for educational purposes. I understand that abstinence-only classes do not work, and so it's better to actually have the sex education in high school when they're much older and not younger. My main issue, however, with that book for Genderqueer is that the pages that I've seen in that whole entire thing were incredibly graphic. Now, I'm not going to show the images in this video because it's too graphic, but more or less, there has been of course, naked guys in a very sexual manner. There was also an image of somebody doing some sort of blowjob on somebody else. And I honestly don't think it's actually appropriate to show kids that kind of stuff. As a general principle, I'm not, of course, in favor of book bans from libraries. That happened all the time for many books that were very controversial. However, the line for me is drawn for explicit sexual content. And so any type of book that is explicitly sexual in nature, I'm sorry, They cannot be in school libraries in the slightest. The second book that has been constantly banned from school libraries was All Boys Ain't Blue. Now, here's a clip directly from the mother who was actually concerned about the book, who read a direct quotation from what was inside one of the chapters.
Mr. Casa, let me share with you and your colleagues one of these books that up until this week resided in the Oak Park Elementary Library. This book was removed because of one of our parents. This book is All Boys Aren't Blue, a memoir manifesto by George Johnson. You told me to take off my pajama pants, which I did. You then took off your shorts, followed by your boxers. There you stood in front of me, fully erect, and said, "Taste it." At first, I laughed and refused, but then you said, "Come on, Matt, taste it. This is what boys like us do when we like each other." I finally listened to you. You eventually got up off me and told me to come to the bathroom, that you wanted to show me one more thing. You turned on the light and closed the door. You began stroking yourself in front of me. I just stood there nervous because I didn't know what to expect next. You said, "Just keep watching, Matt." So I stood there and watched you for several minutes. Then you began to moan slightly. I took a step back because I didn't know what was about to happen. And then it did. You ejaculated into the toilet in front of me. I was very unaware of what sex involved at the time, primarily because I stayed away from it. For the first few minutes, we dry humped and grinded. I was behind him with my stomach on his back as we kissed. After a few minutes of fun and games, he got up and went to the nightstand, where he pulled out a condom and some lube. He then lay down on his stomach. I knew what I had to do, even if I had never done it before. I had one point of reference, though, and that was 7+ years of watching pornography. Although the porn was heterosexual, it was enough of a reference point for me to get the job done. I remember the condom was blue and flavored like cotton candy. I put some lube on it and got him up on his knees. I began to slide into him from behind. I tried not to force it because I imagined it would be painful. I will not continue. Do any of you, find this book that depicts a sexual encounter and rape acceptable for any minor, regardless of gender or sexual orientation? Because I do not find this at all acceptable. A child is a child, and if you see this acceptable, you belong on a national registry and not a school board.
Many people have stated that the main reason why this book was banned was because the depiction of, homosexual characters. And honestly, I don't think it really makes a difference if there's like a gay character in children's media or not. Because honestly, nowadays people are raised with like 2 moms or 2 dads. And so just like with a straight couple, I don't really think by having a gay character in a cartoon or a movie that's aimed towards kids is actually, a really bad thing. I know that many conservatives nowadays, they freak out about anything gay. However, I don't think that's really bad to have a gay character in some sort of cartoon or movie, whatever. I prefer to have authentic characters rather than, of course, token characters, but that's just me. My main issue in that whole entire part that the woman just read out loud wasn't necessarily it was because of a gay character. My main issue is just how incredibly graphic that depiction was for that whole entire sex act. I don't think that whole entire scene alone is actually worth having some sort of shelf on a bookshelf, because sexual content is way different than sex ed. Sex education and its purpose is to teach kids about the various functions of the human bodies and what happens. It's not supposed to tell people what to do in bed. And so, I don't feel comfortable of any kid at that kind of young age reading that whole entire section right there, because that whole entire part is for at least 18 plus at most. Now, the third book that has been banned from school libraries was a book that was based upon the events of the Holocaust. This one right here, I honestly generally don't understand why that book was also banned. Mostly because I think the best way to teach, kids about history is actually, showing the events of what happened. When I was like in high school, taking like history class, we talked about events like the Holocaust. And I think it's great because by talking about students about awful events like the Holocaust, it allows them, of course, keep in mind what kind of stuff that happened back then during the occupation of Nazi Germany and how not to repeat the lesson all over again. And so, when I was taking like, the various, stuff about the Holocaust, we saw like a lot of footage that happened during the aftermath. And of course, many of the dead, lifeless bodies was also showcased during the lessons. And so, because of the gravity of the situation, they also showcase the results of what happened in the gas chambers. And so, I heard that the book was banned because of swearing and also because of the nudity from the genocide that happened. Now, it would be really messed up to ban a book based upon the aftermath of the genocide. I think it's very important to teach kids what kind of stuff can happen if a fascist leader were to take power. As far as the swearing aspect about it, again, it doesn't make much sense to me because teenagers at that age range, they actually swear a lot. Now, you were a teenager, guys. You've been to school. You guys know the whole entire routine. And teenagers do swear. I know it's kind of hard for some people to understand, but teenagers do swear. And so, banning it on the basis of swearing and the basis of nudity does not make much sense to me. And this book ban to me is probably the worst of the book bans that I've seen so far because I think it's very important to teach kids about historical facts. So, what do you guys think about this whole entire stuff? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.